What if the people you're desperately trying to convince have already decided they will never believe you? The harder you explain yourself, the more exhausted you become, until one simple realization changes everything. Before we continue, here's a small request. If you're enjoying this story, please like, follow, and subscribe to stay connected and never miss a new story. The quiet strength of letting go. Marina Ellis owned a small bakery in a peaceful American town where the smell of fresh bread greeted the streets every morning before sunrise. She had built her business with years of dedication, patience, and hard work. Every loaf was baked from scratch, every pastry was prepared with care, and every customer who walked through her doors could taste the pride she poured into her work. People traveled from neighboring towns just to visit her bakery because they believed no one else matched the quality she offered. Her success had not come overnight. It was built through countless early mornings, difficult seasons, financial struggles, and sacrifices that very few people ever saw. Yet despite everything she had accomplished, Marina carried a burden that quietly stole her happiness. She cared far too much about what other people thought of her. The town had a habit of discussing everyone's lives as though they belonged to the public. Every achievement attracted criticism. Every success inspired jealousy. Every rumor spread faster than the truth. Marina became one of the favorite subjects of those conversations. Some people insisted her prices were far too high. Others claimed her bakery had become popular only because she had been lucky enough to open at the right time. Some believed she acted as if she were better than everyone else simply because her business was thriving. Others questioned her personal choices and confidently judged a life they knew nothing about. Marina heard almost every comment because customers repeated what they had heard around town. Every careless opinion felt personal. Every rumor felt like an attack on everything she had spent years creating. She believed that if people truly understood her story, they would stop judging her unfairly. Whenever someone complained about her prices, she carefully explained how expensive quality ingredients had become. She described the long hours she spent kneading dough by hand, testing recipes, cleaning the bakery, and making sure every customer received the very best product she could offer. If someone suggested her success was nothing more than luck, Marina patiently shared the years she had struggled to keep the bakery open, the months she barely paid her bills, and the mornings she worked through exhaustion because failure simply wasn't an option. If someone criticized the way she lived or the choices she had made, she calmly explained her reasons, believing honesty would replace misunderstanding. She truly believed that enough explanation would eventually earn respect. But nothing ever changed. The same people continued saying the same things no matter how patiently she answered them. Every explanation only invited another question. Every defense created another debate. Instead of ending gossip, she unknowingly encouraged it because people realized Marina would always respond. Every evening, she returned home emotionally drained. She replayed conversations over and over in her mind, searching for better words she wished she had spoken. She imagined future arguments, rehearsed stronger responses, and convinced herself that next time she would finally explain everything clearly enough for people to understand. The criticism followed her home, not because anyone was still talking, but because she refused to stop listening inside her own mind. One cold winter morning, a new rumor began spreading across town. Someone claimed Marina's bakery was failing financially. According to the story, she was overwhelmed with debt, struggling to pay suppliers, and preparing to close her doors forever. None of it was true. Business was stable, her bills were paid, and the bakery was doing exactly as she had planned. Yet before lunchtime, several customers quietly asked whether everything was all right. Marina felt anger building with every conversation. By afternoon, she could no longer ignore it. She left the bakery and confronted the people repeating the rumor. She explained her finances in detail. She described her sales, her savings, and the careful planning that had allowed her business to succeed. She defended herself with complete honesty, spending hours proving facts that had never belonged in public conversation. By the time she returned to the bakery, her throat was sore, her body was exhausted, and her patience had completely disappeared. Worst of all, the rumor had not stopped. If anything, it had spread even faster because people who had never heard it before became curious after seeing Marina defend herself so passionately. That evening, after closing the bakery, she sat alone in the quiet building surrounded by empty shelves and cooling ovens. For the first time in years, she stopped thinking about what she should have said differently. Instead, she thought about every argument she had ever tried to win, every explanation, every defense, every sleepless night spent wishing people would finally understand her. Then a simple truth became impossible to ignore. Not once had anyone changed their opinion because she explained herself. The customers who trusted her had never needed an explanation in the first place. The people determined to criticize her had never been searching for understanding. They had already decided what they wanted to believe long before they asked their questions. Her explanations had never been changing their minds. They had only been exhausting her. She realized she had been chasing approval from people who had no intention of giving it. The next morning, another customer cautiously mentioned the rumor, expecting Marina to defend herself all over again. Instead, she smiled warmly and simply said, "That isn't true." Then she wrapped the fresh bread, accepted the payment, thanked the customer, and returned to work. She offered no speech, no emotional defense, no desperate attempt to convince anyone. The customer waited for more, but nothing else came. After a brief silence, the conversation ended naturally. Over the following weeks, the rumors slowly disappeared. Not because Marina had finally discovered the perfect explanation, but because gossip survives on emotional reactions. When she stopped feeding it with endless arguments, it quietly lost its power. The town eventually found something else to discuss. Marina noticed another change inside herself. She stopped replaying conversations before going to sleep. She stopped rehearsing imaginary debates. She stopped believing she was responsible for correcting every misunderstanding. She still valued honesty, and when someone sincerely asked a question, she answered with kindness and respect. But she no longer confused honesty with endless self-defense. She learned that some people genuinely seek understanding, while others simply seek something to argue about. Knowing the difference transformed her life. She focused more on improving her bakery than defending it. She invested her energy in people who appreciated her work instead of those determined to criticize it. Slowly, peace replaced frustration. She finally understood that there will always be people who misunderstand you, judge you unfairly, or believe rumors without evidence. You cannot force understanding where none exists. You cannot explain yourself into acceptance. Sometimes the strongest answer is a simple truth followed by quiet confidence. Your actions will always speak longer than your arguments. From that day forward, Marina stopped measuring her peace by whether everyone approved of her. She measured it by whether she remained true to herself. The opinions around her never completely disappeared, but they no longer controlled her happiness. She discovered that real freedom begins the moment you stop asking everyone else for permission to feel at peace. You cannot force people to understand you if they have already chosen not to. Speak the truth with honesty, then let your actions, not endless explanations, protect your peace. From that day forward, Marina no longer wasted her time trying to change the minds of people who had already chosen to misunderstand her. She found peace not because the world had become kinder, but because she had finally learned that her worth was never determined by someone else's opinion. She continued baking with the same passion, living with the same honesty, and letting her actions speak louder than any explanation ever could. And in that quiet confidence, she discovered the freedom she had been searching for all along. This is the end of the story.